What I'm going to do is I'm going to walk you through your lab notebook and go over some of these structures. Now, I will show you as I go along some of the lab models, but not all of them. I have another recording that goes over all the various different lab models that we have, and I will provide for you a PowerPoint with those images, so all you have to do is label them. So we're going to start with the lacrimal apparatus of the eye. Now, the lacrimal apparatus is designed to produce tears. Now, tears keep the eye lubricated, keeps it moist. It's also going to provide nourishment for the eye. And the tears are produced. Okay, so we're going to start with the lacrimal glands. So you have lacrimal glands here, as well as here and here. They produce tears. And the tears will then go through where you see the line here, and it's all these little green things. They will flow through lacrimal ducts and actually cross the eye like this. And then it's going to drain into either what you see up here, which is the superior lacrimal canaliculus, which you see here, or here is the inferior lacrimal canaliculus. And it will drain into this structure here called the nasolacrimal duct, which you see part of it right there. Now up here and here we have a lacrimal sac. Now the reason why they call this the nasolacrimal duct, because it's getting secretions from both nasal glands as well as the lacrimal glands. Now, so the tears can help to nourish the eye, lubricate the eye, and that lacrimal glands are innervated by your facial nerve, which is cranial nerve number 7. Okay? Now let's look at the extrinsic eye muscles. Now you have 6 extrinsic eye muscles. Those are, or I should say, 6 extrinsic eye muscles involved in movements of the eye. Those are all skeletal muscles, and they're named because of where they're located and how the muscle fibers run. So you have 4 muscles that have rectus as part of the name because the fibers run straight. You have 2 that run at an angle, so they refer to them as oblique muscles. So the first one we're going to look at is, I'm going to color red, is the lateral rectus muscle right here. So lateral rectus muscle, because it's on the lateral surface of the eye. It's kind of, that part of the eye is closer to where your temple would be. Your medial rectus muscle is closer to where your nose, and I'm going to color that blue. We have the inferior rectus muscle, I'm going to do green. That's found on the undersurface of the eye, and it runs straight. And we have a superior rectus, which I'm going to do yellow gold color. That's found on the top part of the eye. So that's superior rectus. Then we have 2 oblique muscles. So in gray, I'm going to do the superior oblique muscle, which you see coming around here. So it's on the top, but it's kind of running at an angle and actually inserts on the eye using this tendon. And this structure right there is called the trochlea. It's a pulley. Trochlea. In black, I'm going to do the inferior oblique. So it attaches to the undersurface of the eye. Okay, so those are your 6 extrinsic eye muscles that are involved in movements of the eye. Now I'm going to show you some of them on the lab models, and then we'll kind of tell you what each of them does. So superior rectus, see just part of it right there. Lateral rectus right there. See part of it is cut off right there. You have superior oblique right there. Medial rectus you see right there. You can't see it on the one on the left. Here is inferior rectus. And then right here is inferior oblique muscle. So, but make sure when you label it, you say inferior oblique muscle, superior rectus muscle. I need to know that it's a muscle. Okay. Now, what's the function of them? Okay, so we're gonna again label them, and I'm just gonna color them, and then you have written in there the functions of the eye, but I'll draw an arrow so you can know what they do, and then we'll talk about the cranial nerve innervation. So we'll start. I'm gonna do this one red. So here is the superior rectus muscle, which allows you to look up. It elevates the eye. That one is innervated by cranial nerve number 3. Let's do it here, which is your oculomotor nerve. Actually, what I'm going to do is I'll do all of them that are innervated by the oculomotor, because 4 of them are. The in blue is going to be right here. That will be inferior rectus. That depresses your eye, allows you to look downwards. That's also innervated by the oculomotor nerve. We also have the medial rectus. I'm going to do that one as gold. So here is the medial rectus muscle. That allows you to look towards the nose medially. And then we also have the inferior oblique. Let's do that one in green. So here's inferior oblique muscle. That's innervated by the oculomotor nerve. Now that one allows you to rotate your eye up and to the side. So they call it extorsion. Now this is a right eye, so that one would allow me to do that. If it was a left eye, it would go like that, okay? But here's a right eye. Now we're left with 2 muscles. I'm just going to do gray. This one is that lateral rectus muscle. Lateral rectus muscle moves the eye to the side laterally, and that one is innervated by your abducens nerve. So abducens nerve, which is cranial nerve number 6. Then we have, what color am I left with? We're going to do black. We have the superior oblique, which I'm going to do right here. There's the superior oblique muscle. That is innervated by the trochlear nerve, which is cranial nerve number 4. Now that one allows you to rotate your eye down into the side. So since this is the right eye, it's going to look like that. Let's do it like that. If it was the left eye, like that. Okay? So that's what it does. They call it intorsion. Now the next thing I want to look at, actually pretty much did this 20 million thing, just ended up doing it on one slide, so we'll just fast forward. Now your eye is actually broken up into 2 compartments. You have this anterior compartment and you have a posterior compartment. The anterior compartment is actually broken up into 2 chambers, the anterior and posterior chamber. So the anterior chamber is between the cornea of the eye and your iris, this part in here. Now that's filled with aqueous humor. It helps to circulate around that cornea, and the aqueous humor helps to maintain pressure in the eye. It helps to bend the light, and it also provides nutrients to the eye. Now the posterior compartment is between the lens and the retina. Actually, that posterior chamber is there, but I don't really talk about it that much. The posterior compartment back here, that's between the lens and the retina, back right here. So the retina's underneath that vitreous body. Now it's jelly-like, and biggest thing, one of the things it does, it helps to keep the retina in place, and it also helps to maintain the shape of your eyeball. Now aqueous humor circulates in the eye, and you're constantly, replenishing it but the vitreous humor, you're not so much. The vitreous humor makes up that vitreous body, and it doesn't circulate through the eye. Now, I'm going to look at the layers of the eye. We actually have 3 layers. The outer one is called the fibrous tunic, and really the 2 things that you need to know about it is the sclera and the cornea. The limbus is just the junction between the 2. The sclera provides protection to the eye, and the 6 extrinsic eye muscles are actually attached to that sclera. The cornea is transparent. It's this out here. That cornea is transparent and provides most of the focusing power of your eye, bends those light rays. Now, the cornea and sclera are continuous with each other. They're made of the same material. The thing is, the way the collagen fibers run are different. The sclera, you see it's white, it's not transparent, but the cornea is transparent. And one thing that if you didn't know, the cornea is avascular. And so corneal transplants are really easy to do because there's no blood supply directly to that cornea, so it doesn't reject anything. Now, the middle tunic of the eye is called the vascular tunic. And this tunic is very heavily pigmented. And there's 3 different things that you'll need to be aware about is the iris, and that's the colored part of your eye. It's actually composed of 2 layers of smooth muscle. They're referred to as your pupillary muscles. The pupillary muscle that we'll talk about those pupillary muscles a little bit later. But the iris is that pigment. If you've got green eyes, it's green. If you have blue eyes, it's blue. Mine's brown. Now, the ciliary body encircles the lens, and it's composed of a smooth muscle that's involved in changing the shape of your lens, which is important if you're looking at something from up close or from a distance. And this last part is the choroid. That is very vascular, a lot of blood vessels that you'll see in it. It's heavily pigmented, and it does separate the sclera from the retina, okay? And the neural tunic is the innermost and does have 2 layers, but the main one we look at is the retina. The retina contains 2 types of photoreceptors. Then the ones that are responsible for when light is low and they can't detect color are the rods. The photoreceptors that are active when you have a lot of light, they're responsible for your color vision, are your cones. Now here, it's just showing you kind of what goes on with phototransduction. Now what you're actually going to see is light is actually going to be, I'm going to look at this picture right here. Light's going to go through here and here, and here's the light coming in. It actually goes all the way back here and then comes and is transduced out this way. So out here, this is the inner layer where you have these ganglion cells, and here's the axons of the optic nerve, and this is going to be carried away by the eye. Now here's showing you the different photoreceptors, the cones and the rods, and you have these other types of cells that are involved. Now you can look at your notes because your notes have exactly what these things do. So if you're more interested in that, you can actually refer to your notes for this one. Now what I'm going to do now is here's actually what the retina actually looks like when you look at it under the microscope. You won't need to know that. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to use some eye models to kind of go through some of the stuff, and a separate recording is actually going to go over the physiology of vision. So we have on this model, you don't see the cornea, but the light would actually go through the cornea, through the aqueous humor, and go through, actually I'm going to color it in red, the pupil. Now the iris here that you see, here's the pupillary radial muscle. This is the pupillary constrictor muscle. We'll talk about that in the lecture on the eye physiology. Those can change the diameter of the pupil to allow either more or less light into the eye. This structure right here is that ciliary body which is attached to the lens, which you can't see right now. That would be important in changing the shape of the lens. Right here, you see that choroid, very vascular, heavily pigmented. Now here we have, you see the cornea right there. See, it's transparent. There's the pupil, part of that pupil. And what you're seeing here is part of the iris. Actually, let's color that in. That's part of the iris. But what you see here is actually part of the ciliary body, the ciliary muscles. Right in here is actually the retina. So what happens is the light will go through the cornea, go through the anterior chamber where you have aqueous humor, and it's going to go through the pupil, through the lens right here, all the way back to that retina, and those light rays are actually being bent as they enter the eye. If you want to have the highest visual acuity in your eye, you want those light rays to go back to the spot. It's actually referred to, they actually even have it wrong. There's a spot at the back of the eye called the macula lutea, which is this yellowed spot. And at the center of it, you have this thing called the fovea centralis. This is the area of your eye that has the highest visual acuity. Has no rods, it just has cones. So if you want to see something the clearest, you're going to look at it straight on and it's going to go to that area. You notice your things off your peripheral vision is hazier. It's not as clear. So this is where we want to focus those light rays. Now, once you excite those rods and the cones, the information is going to be carried out the eye via here, the optic nerve. But right here, this area right there, because you have blood vessels entering and exiting, there are no photoreceptors there, and that's actually your blind spot, and they call it the optic disc. Most of us, we adapt. You don't really realize you have a blind spot. Now on this here, this is showing you that macula lutea. In the center of it is that fovea centralis. So the orange represents the retina. Here's the optic nerve. There's the lens. Here's the vitreous body. So actually, I did fail to mention that when that light ray went through the lens, it has to go through the vitreous body before it actually hits the retina too. And here it's showing you that optic disc right there. And here's actually an image of the eye that they're checking. Last time was they take pictures of the back of your eye. They're looking at a lot of different, they're looking at the blood vessels in the eye. They're also looking at that area too. Okay, so I've showed you that, so that's good. So next recording, I'm going to cover eye physiology with you.